Hello, everyone! Welcome to the Gamer Agenda podcast, where our agenda is to be gay
and play games.
I'm Dredians, a gay-ass artist and professional primate pal.
And I'm Spider Staryu, a sassy gamer from New York who keeps things real and keeps it 100. This is episode 5 of our podcast. This is part 2 of the Purple Pamphlet series, of a 4-part series. We actually have some tea for you guys. This actually was just one giant episode that was like over 2 hours.
Yeah.
But what we ended up doing, because every part was so important, we split it up into 4 parts. So this one part was just literally 2 hours, but we split it into 1 hour and then however long this is. We had to do it because we want everyone to listen to what this pamphlet says, because there's so much key points and we want you guys to digest it and not just, drag on and on and on and on. So splitting it into several parts, you guys will be able to get certain key points that'll be highlighted easier.
Yeah, so if any part sounds kind of weird or out of nowhere, just remember that this was split into 2 parts. So if you haven't watched the last episode, please watch that before watching this one. Yes. We really appreciate it. We just pretty much go off every paragraph. There's so much to say. Last time we discussed the origins of the Purple Pamphlet and the beginning chapters, which detailed the Florida Legislative Committee's definition of homosexuality, some ways that homosexual people live their lives, a couple of anecdotes from what Spider called pick-me-gays. And then just general ways that homosexuals are deemed as a threat to society. In today's episode, we're going to continue off from that last point and go deeper into the extent which Floridians considered homosexuality a virus, or a sort of they'll groom your children and indoctrinate them, and the ways that it should be dealt with. It's going to get pretty heavy, y'all, so fair warning. But, history isn't always pretty, especially queer history, and it's equally as important to go over the good and the bad. We got lots of hot tea coming for you today, and I hope you all can sit back and enjoy this.
Yes, so let's get started and get back into the pamphlet. These are not isolated instances, nor do they touch the extremes of deviant behavior which enforcement officers have become accustomed to encountering in the world of homosexuality. The plain fact of the matter is that a great many homosexuals have an insatiable appetite for sexual activities and find special gratification in the recruitment to the ranks of youth. This addiction to youth has been reflected by homosexuals themselves in the pages of their publications. In the letters to the editor column of One magazine, there have appeared sentiments such as those in the January 1960 issue of Mr. T.W. is almost basic to the gay life. If the desire for youth makes me sick, then forget about calling a doctor, for I never want to be cured from my illness. There's a tendency to lump together the homosexuals who seek out youth and the child molesters. To most people, the child molester seems to pose the greatest threat to society. The child molester attacks, but seldom kills or physically cripples his victim. The outlook for the victim of molestation is generally good for recovery from the mental and physical shocks involved and for the enjoyment of a normal life. The homosexual, on the other hand, prefers to reach out for the child at the time of normal sexual awakening and to conduct a psychological preliminary to the physical contact. The homosexual's goal and part of his satisfaction is to bring over the young person, to hook him for homosexuality. Whether it be with youth or with older individuals, homosexuality is unique among the sexual assaults considered by our laws, in that the person affected by the practicing homosexual is first a victim, then an accomplice, and finally himself a perpetrator of homosexual acts. Homosexuals are generally outwardly gregarious people, free with gifts and money for those they like or are currently enmeshed with. Many find association with extreme youth a solace for their anxiety over aging, just as some aging straights seek out the companionship of youthful members of the opposite sex. The appeals to youth by homosexuals are manifold. They are masters of flattery, playing up to the teenager's desire for recognition and equal status to an adult world. They will provide the youth with opportunity to attain goals made attractive by adult practitioners, a car to drive, cigarettes to smoke, liquor to drink. Frequently, pornographic materials of a heterosexual nature are used. One strip of photos we have seen starts off depicting in detail clarity a male and female sexual relationship, and as the ensuing photos unfold, the man leaves the woman and joins another man in a series of poses, leading up to a vivid homosexual erotica.
So yeah, this is just here you go, straight up, gay people or groomer section right here. Like,
yeah,
this baffled me. This appalled me when I read it, that they're claiming that a homosexual person is worse than a child molester because, like, oh, well, like, a child molester just attacks you, but you can recover. But if you're like groomed by a gay person, you become gay, and then you become a groomer too. Like it's a fucking disease. First of all, what the fuck is this sentence here? It says the outlook for the victim of molestation is generally good for recovery. No, it's not. People have trauma from that for years. I've known plenty of people who have been actual victims of child molestation. Usually from family members or close friends, not some random gay guy. And they are traumatized for life. They call it CPTSD, like PTSD from your childhood. People, yes, they can lead normal lives. Yes, they're not like, constantly rocking back and forth in fetal position from their trauma, but they are traumatized. People don't recover from molestation, be it child molestation or being molested as an adult. That shit sticks with you for life. So they're wrong. They're clearly wrong about gay people being worse than child molesters. They're even wrong about the severity of molestation in the first place.
Exactly. Like, literally making it seem like child molestation is nothing. I almost want to literally... It was hard for me to read that, guys. It was very hard for me to read that because it's like... It sounds like the most insane sentence structure I've ever seen in my life. So, literally, they can just get over being molested? Like, that's normal? Ask any person who was a victim of child molestation. Not even just child molestation. We can go a step further. Of sexual assault. Ask them if they just got over it. Like, we can just get over it. Like, I've seen people... I've never known anyone who was a victim of that, thankfully. But you can easily see people's stories. You see women's stories and men's stories of either growing up, being young, or even as an adult being sexually assaulted or raped. It's a serious thing. It is not something someone just gets over with. Like, oh, we'll just get over it. You move on. Not everyone is like that by any means. That's a very terrible thing that happens to someone. And to make it seem like, oh, whatever. And then even a step further, making it worse, like, oh, see, what a homosexual does is they get a youthful person, infect them, and then that infected person will then become a homosexual and then infect others. Like, why is it that people think that the only way you become gay, or become gay, that's what they say, become, why do they think it's because you were touched? Like, I've heard that a lot in my life, like, besides people saying you choose to be gay, I've heard people say, oh, you were molested, that's why you became gay. So wait. And also, they say it in this context, let me tell you. They say, okay, when a boy is touched and molested, he becomes gay because he likes it. But when a woman is touched, she becomes gay because she doesn't want to be touched by a man again. It's like, what the it doesn't make any sense!
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Also, gotta love, like, the examples of, like, how gay people abduct children. It's like, oh, yeah, car to drive, cigarettes to smoke, liquor to drink. This is the same shit as, like, some creepy guy in a white van will drive up to you and offer you candy. And it's like, this is the same shit. It does not... Yes, it probably has happened in the past, but it's not nearly as common. Teaching people to avoid these, like, stereotypical child abductor scenarios makes them blind to actual child abuse, which is, like, usually way more subdued and, like, behind the scenes. And that's what makes it so insidious, that, like, and nobody suspects it's happening. Like, the children, they're kind of, manipulated to stay quiet. People who are big proponents of child sex ed, they aren't proponents of it because, we want to touch kids. We want kids to know what sex is. It's like, no, they want children to know what sex is and what their body parts are. So if they're being molested by someone, they can say, hey, Uncle Jim touched my vagina, instead of, Uncle Jim, was playing with my butterfly, whatever, kitty censorship shit that they're forced to say, because they won't understand them. And also, if children are taught about sex at a young age, then when they do become sexually active as teenagers, yes, as teenagers have sex. It's not pedophilic to acknowledge that fact. It's true. Kids have sex. It's normal. It's a normal part of growing up. When these kids become sexually active as teenagers and adults, they know their shit already. They don't have to spend their puberty years confused and trying to catch up with the rest of the world because their body's changing. They already know this stuff, and they'll already be in a healthy mindset. They'll be able to have healthy relationships with people and avoid, the actual real creeps who want to manipulate them instead of looking out for the weird guy in a white van, because that does not happen as much as stereotypes want you to believe.
And that's why it's so important to teach your kids these things. Before they even get to sex ed, it's important for you to teach your kids. If you are a parent, it's important. I'm not saying 4 years old, 3 years old. I'm not saying like that, but it's important to teach your kids about anatomy and to teach them about their parts and teach them about consent. Teaching about what consent is so important. And people just say, what? For what purpose? For them to know that, this is not okay. This is private. You don't let someone touch it, right? You got to teach those things to a kid because it's not obvious to everyone. Some things can be obvious. Not everything is obvious. That's why you got to teach your kids. And I've noticed, especially in religious families and Christian families, they are so scared to talk about sex. They're so scared to talk about sex. They're so scared to teach their kids because they feel like, okay, if I teach them, they're going to go have it. Or so then I won't teach them nothing. And then when they're older, they'll look at porn or whatever, and then they'll find out on their own, and you'll be like, oh my God, you looked at that? Really? It's the whole point of growing up. When you become a certain age, you have you have that age of exploring what you like, exploring what it is. But that's not abnormal to explore that. What is abnormal? Exploring that with a grown adult. If you are a teenager or whatever, well, number one, there's no teenagers listening to this. This is an adult podcast. but I'm saying for teenagers, they sometimes, what happens, you want to talk about grooming? They get groomed by adults because they'd be like, oh wow, they're so cool, they're this, and then that adult forms a bond with that teenager, and then that's how that can happen. Maybe they didn't know what consent was. Maybe they were never taught that. That's why these types of lessons are so important. It's so important to teach your kids to protect themselves. You want to give them the tools to protect themselves, so they know, they recognize those things, right? You don't shelter them and just say, oh, hopefully everything turns out right. That's not realistic, and that's not a realistic way to raise your kids. So,
all right, moving on to the next paragraph. In this connection, it is worthy of note that while much public hue and cry has been raised about the girly magazines draped across newsstands in the length and breadth of the state, little has been done to reveal the role of male muscle in physique magazines, the pin-up books of homosexuality. The principal purchasers of these books are not the puny before examples of skin and bone seeking a formula by which to pour themselves into the muscular mold of the male models, but are the homosexuals who find more stimulation from viewing the rippling muscles and tan figures portrayed there than the man who likes women derives from the centerfold of Playboy. These magazines are the showcases for photographers who deal in homosexual pornography and who, in most cases, supply the publishers with photographs free of charge. In return for this, there appears at the back of the magazine a credit page listing the names and addresses of the photographers who contributed the photos used on various pages of the publication. Along with this is a suggestion that the reader who sees something he likes correspond directly with the photographer. Such correspondence will lead first to circumspect figure studies, then to more suggestive photos, duels showing two men in close proximity, and finally to the hardcore and costly homosexual pornography consisting of totally nude males in lascivious suggested poses or actual homosexual acts. Similar photos of lesbian relationships are more rare, but available from major producers of these materials. In addition to the multi-million-dollar traffic in professionally produced homosexual pornography, local homosexuals trade photos like some youngsters trade bubblegum baseball cards. The Polaroid camera has been a great boon to homosexuals and a blow to those required to investigate their activities. The avoidance of a film processor has freed the homosexual to produce photos in abundance of his friends at play, and inexpensive copying machines have made possible rapid reproduction for exchange or sale. Once entangled in the web of homosexuality, there are several courses common to young people. The first is that they quickly come out by becoming full-fledged homosexuals, taking an aggressive role in sexual acts. It is this type of youth who goes out for chickens by becoming an active recruiter of extremely young boys. It is this individual who is found to be the leader, although usually with adult advice, of homosexually oriented high school secret societies, whose initiation rites run the gamut of homosexual appeals. Another course that is pursued by the young person who recognizes that his willingness to be a passive partner in homosexual acts can be the key to an ever-available flow of money and gifts. A good-looking youth finds little difficulty in making contact with cruising homosexuals willing to pay for his services. In Miami, one boy of 17 claimed convincingly that he had earned more than $20,000 since he was 14, and that he was paying his family's expenses, had bought an automobile and a complete and tasteful wardrobe with the wages of homosexuality.
Such young people as this, known as hustlers, will frequently become fairies, interested only in sex with any man or dirt, willing to be passive in a homosexual act, but given to robbing the homosexual of all money and clothing at its conclusion. Homosexuals, especially those with good jobs or close family ties, are vulnerable to blackmail, and there are those who serve as trade, merely to amass the information on which a blackmail threat can be based. Those homosexuals who steal seldom do so for personal use, but to satisfy a greedy lover or blackmailer. In addition to the moral and legal problems engendered by the spread of homosexuality, its practitioners face a very real medical hazard. Venereal disease can be, and is, transmitted by certain of the more common homosexual acts. The incidence of the several forms of this disease has increased in recent years to a new high of 1,748 cases in 1963, ranking Florida third in the nation in number of cases, according to health authorities, in large measure to homosexual transmission. Particularly has this been found in the case of university communities and similar areas with a large youth population. We have not touched upon homosexuality as a factor in other forms of sex deviation or in major crime occurrences and security matters, for to do so would deserve more space than is available here. Suffice it to say that such links do exist, and that the homosexual, subject to abnormal external and internal pressures, tends to neuroticism and mental imbalance, a predilection opening pathways to crime and conduct far beyond the veil of rationality. We would not deny the existence of some lasting homosexual relationships. We would not deny the existence of some lasting homosexual relationships, which pose no threat to society and in which the participants are constructive and contributing members of their communities. We do, however, believe that the glimpse of the homosexual world we have here presented underlines our conviction that homosexuals pose a problem demanding of serious attention by all concerned with sound citizenship.
Yeah, so here's another common stereotype used against gay people, that they're like disease bringers.
Mm-hmm.
And you definitely saw a huge boost in this in the 80s around the AIDS crisis, because 99% of all the AIDS discussions had to do with gay people, especially gay men, because it's it's the gay disease, and
it was called GRID, gay-related immunodeficiency.
Yeah, it's so many people died because of people's homophobia. Honestly, we could do a whole podcast on that too, because honestly, it's one of the biggest gay tragedies that's ever happened.
We will in the future. We totally will.
Yeah. So yeah, here you see a lot of discussion, a lot of instances here where gay people are not only is homosexuality a disease, but it gives you diseases too. You get all these venereal diseases. And it's like, buddy, you can get those no matter what you're sticking your thing into. Like, everyone, even two lesbians can get STDs. Two gay guys can get STDs. As straight people can get STDs. Everyone can get STDs. That's why they're called sexually transmitted diseases. The only common factor here is that it's sex. Like, it doesn't matter what kind of sex you're having. It's just, oh boy.
It's not specific to gay people. That's the biggest issue. And look, we see things like even today where like gay men in America can't donate blood. Like, they can't, unless you haven't had sex in a year. It's like, bruh, you ain't saying that to those to the straight men and straight women. I don't see you saying that to them. And it would be so bad if you really looked at where HIV is the most prevalent. You will see tons and tons and tons and tons of people change their mind and like, oh yeah, we can't do that, because then, for an example, HIV is prevalent in poor communities. Are you going to say, oh, let me check your socioeconomic status? Oh, you're poor, you probably have HIV, can't do. That's so messed up. So you see how it is as a gay man to hear, well, I don't trust your blood, Spider Star, you, because you might have something because you're gay. That's so offensive to us. It's so offensive and it's dehumanizing. It's wrong, right? Anyone can get an STD and anyone can get HIV, right? So if you wanted to really take precaution everywhere, in straight men, straight women, gay women, non-binary people, everywhere. Don't just take it only with gay men and be like, yeah, we're kind of worried about you guys. So it's one of the biggest insults. It really is, totally.
Yeah, it's just disgusting to see how much of this stuff is still like prevalent to this day, and this is exactly why we wanted to read it to you guys. And we haven't even gotten to like the worst stuff yet. Like, it gets worse, people.
Yes.
What to do about homosexuality? In Florida, homosexuality is not treated as an entity by existing laws, but rather individual acts are specified as illegal in those sections of the statutes dealing with sex offenses. We include a summary of those laws in the appendix to this report. Many homosexuals are picked up and prosecuted on vagrancy or similar non-specific charges, fined a moderate amount, and then released to pick up their practices virtually where they left them on arrest. Most law enforcement, prosecutive, and judicial officials are in an honest quandary as to how best to handle such cases. They are concerned that in sexual matters, Florida follow the admonition of Britain's Wolfenden report to continue to preserve public order and decency, to protect the citizen from what is offensive and or injurious. To protect the citizen from what is offensive and or injurious, and to provide sufficient safeguards against exploitation and corruption of others. Incarceration is not a satisfactory answer in many cases, for indeed prison life produces its own specialized brand of deviants, known as institutional homosexuals, who would not, in freedom, consider homosexual activity, but in prison turn to it in search of escape from sexual tensions. The Florida legislature in 1963 recognized this problem and enacted legislation directing the Division of Mental Health and Division of Corrections of the state to plan for the construction of facilities at the prison system's new receiving and treatment center for the care of child molesters and criminal sexual psychopaths. The same legislative session revised the statutes relating to the revocation of teaching certificates to make more certain the withdrawal of teaching privileges from those against whom homosexual charges have been verified. So this is what we were talking about here with the Lavender Scare earlier. People who are in positions of power, teachers, government, what have you, having their jobs stripped from them because they are either known homosexuals or rumored homosexuals.
And we see that even today where Don't Say Gay, which is trying to get a bunch of teachers fired.
You know where that started in?
Florida!
In Florida. Yeah, it's in Florida. Great job, Florida. From 1959 through January 1st, 1964, a total of 64 Florida teachers have had certificates revoked by the State Board of Education. And of these, 54 were on morals charges. An additional 83 cases are now pending before the board. While this is a relatively low number in the light of Florida's more than 40,000 certified teachers, it is ample to warrant concern by educators and parents. A veteran investigator of homosexual activities summed up the feelings of many who have studied the problem of homosexuality in Florida when, in consultation with us, he said, "There are those who feel that this particular type of investigation against homosexuals is just too touchy to fool with, but it must be done. It must be done. The homosexual groups, Homosexuals Anonymous, the Homophile Institute, the Mattachine Society, and others are now coming out in the open in our largest cities like New York and Washington, trying to gain social acceptance in publications. Late last fall, they actually sought a permit to solicit on the streets of Washington. Since the homosexual has seen fit to come out into the open and try to get himself accepted by society, I think it is about time the thinking members of society, the persons in positions of responsibility, get up off their duffs and realize that if we don't stand up and start fighting, we're going to lose these battles in a very real war of morality. The homosexuals are organized. The persons whose responsibility it is to protect the public, and especially our kids, are not organized in the direction of combating homosexual recruiting of youth. The problem is so little understood by lay people that the homosexuals will win every battle that is fought unless we band together to educate ourselves. There is only one thing that the homosexual fears as far as straight persons are concerned, and that is a straight person who knows him and the gay crowd for what they are. He is not afraid of the average housewife and the average citizen, and he is not afraid of the judges who have never taken the time and trouble to look into this problem and see to what it really amounts. He is afraid of the police officer because he feels the police officer can see through him a lot easier than anyone else can. He will depend upon a jury, invariably, to adjudicate his guiltiness in a court of law rather than a judge, because he feels the judge may be able to see through him. We must do everything in our power to create one thing in the mind of every homosexual, and that is, keep your hands off our children. The consequences will be terrible if you do not. The homosexual's motto is, today's trade is tomorrow's competition. This motto is spoken in every language in the civilized world. We must teach the homosexual, make him understand that we will not tolerate his recruitment of youth. I don't think that this is asking too much of us, too much of every parent, for if we don't act soon, we will wake up some morning and find they are too big to fight. They may be already. I hope not. I hope this guy is burning in hell.
I hope he is rotting in the fiery pits of hell. Oh my god. Wow, that was a little bit hard to read.
Yeah. Again, we have gay people are groomers. They're trying to recruit our children. Get your hands off our children.
Our hands aren't on your children, buddy.
I don't want your ugly ass kids.
No one wants your ugly ass kids. That's number one. Number two, stop saying, and you know what? Because this is part of it too. Stop saying that gay people who defend gay children, we're not recruiting your child. Guess what? You're either gay or you're not. Or maybe you're bi, maybe you're trans, maybe you're non-binary. There's other things too. But what I'm talking about, I'm saying specifically for gay. You're either gay or you're not. You're not, oh, well, actually, I'm thinking about being gay. What do you think? What do you think, gay adult? Should I be gay? Yeah, be gay. And then I'm gonna be gay. No, that's not how it works. Every single gay adult started off as a gay kid. So every time you say that, like, oh, those gay kids don't exist, you don't know what you like. What do you mean we don't know what we like? So then, did you know when you liked the opposite sex? Did you not know when you liked the opposite sex, when you started having feelings? It starts when you're a kid, and then you start to really know more when you're a teenager. That's every single person. That's called growing up. You discover the things that you like. You discover what you don't like, right? That's part of growing up. But guess what? You start off as a kid being and feeling these things, right? So when you tell those gay kids that it's not real, or that, oh, actually gay adults are recruiting you to make you gay, you don't actually think this on your own. They do think this stuff on their own. And they're terrified because you want to know why? They have conservative parents or conservative family, or they have Christian family or Christian parents that will kick them out of their homes. We can literally do a study on, literally look at studies that literally have LGBTQ kids being kicked out of their homes by Christian or conservative families because they don't want to deal with it. right? We're all pro-life and all things like that until we see that happen. Then it's like, who cares? It's just a gay person. That's what kills me about it. Like, it's the fear that they stow of gay adults to be like, okay, you want to hurt our kids. I don't want to hurt your kids. I saw a picture somewhere where it said, we don't want to do anything to your kids. We just want your gay kids to live, to survive. That's what we want. That's all. We don't want to do nothing with your kids. We don't want to have sex with your kids. We don't want to, I want to make your kid like me so that when they get older, they'll like, no, it's not like that at all. We just want your gay kids to live. We don't want them to be tortured, be killed, be treated badly, to feel bad about themselves. And then when they become an adult, they become a lesser version of themselves to fit your freaking baloney beliefs. That's what we want for your kids. We don't want your kids to suffer. I'm so sorry that me not wanting your kids to suffer because your ideologies don't match up with what your kid actually is. Like, come on.
Oftentimes when we're looking out for children, we're looking out after our own. Even to this day, queer children, gay children, they are harassed and they don't get like an equal opportunity to express themselves and be the kind of person they want to be, unlike their straight peers, because we still have these fucky ass stereotypes and mindsets from the fucking 60s ruling our society and, forcing ideals on our children to make themselves feel awful about something they can't control. I mean, when you think about it, y'all are the real groomers.
Yeah, exactly. Like, also, guess what? You know what happens to those gay kids when they're in schools? They don't get treated lovingly, respectfully by students all the time. And a lot of schools, and this is not just the United States, this is around the world, they get bullied. They get treated badly. They're not cool. Ew, you like, oh, you're gay. You like this. You like men. Ew. Watch out for Billy. He likes men. Or a girl, right? Like, it's the same thing. Like, they treat them like they're not cool. They're not deserving of friendship. They're weird. They're outcasts. They're marked. I remember hearing that word, marked. They are marked as other. And being marked that way is a hard way to go to society where no one understands you. And that's kind of what I feel like a lot of conservatives and Christians who think this way, what they want. They want to stamp out all gay people, because stamping it out is in that they want to surround their kid who might be gay, surround them by, other religious people, or surround them by all straight people, so that eventually they'll really feel alone, and that we'll get it out of them. And that's such a cruel way of doing things. We see it with conversion therapy and stuff. That's so cruel. How can you treat a human being like that? How can you say you're filled with God's love and you're acting so evil? Like, look at this man that we just read about. That's God's love? Are you insane? That's supposed to be love? That's supposed to be love because, when you die, you're going to go to hell. How do you know that? How do you know you're not going to hell? Right? I'm seeing people act so high and mighty, like, oh, I know this, I know that, I read the Bible, and it's all that, but it's like, look at you as a person. You're not a good person. You think bad people are gonna get to heaven? Bad people are gonna, if that's your religious belief system, you believe that? Because I don't believe that at all. I don't think any of these people who treat people badly, hurt you, for trying to manipulate you from when they come out as gay, like you want to try to manipulate them and hurt them and try to put them in conversion therapy. I don't think that you're someone who's going to get to heaven, because if that's how it is, I'm sorry, none of this is real. It can't possibly be if literally evil can prosper. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, this sort of stuff is why I personally identify as an atheist, because I understand the sort of social importance and of religion, and there are good things that come out of religion, but I cannot pin myself to any sort of belief that is shared by people who do not see me as a human being. Like, I don't want to believe in a God that hates me.
Yeah, and I am a Protestant Christian, and it's hard. It's really hard because other Christians don't treat you with love and respect. They treat you like you're trying, like, just like what this pamphlet's saying, like, you're recruiting people. They call you a recruiter. They call you a groomer. They call you all sorts of names. Like, oh, you're a progressive Christian. You're not a real Christian. You're a progressive one who's trying to make everyone go to hell. It's like, what do you say to all that? I believe in God. You're not going to take that away from me. You're not going to take away my own belief system because you believe it differently. I don't care that you believe it differently, but don't put that on me. Try to remember something. Even with under Christianity, it's separated into so many different branches because guess what? Everyone believes different things. Everyone believes different things. There's not one right answer, right? Because if there was right answer, there wouldn't be so many branches now, would there be? Right? So I just wish I could get through to these people, but the problem is you can't get through to them. You can't. Because they are stuck in their ways. They really believe this stuff. They believe that gay people are this, gay people are that. You can't convince them because they see things in an alternate reality. Their view is slanted. Like, you know how everyone's eyes are like straightforward, they can see what's straight in front of them? Their lenses are slanted. They can't see everything. They can't see the big picture. They just see it from this narrow point of view. So they're like, okay, in my narrow point of view, this makes sense. So that's what it is. Gay people are evil. Gay people are this. Gay people are that. And no, it's not like that at all. You don't understand that acting that way to gay people turns them away from God. You're not convincing anyone to follow God by treating them that way. You're not convincing me when I'm already a Christian and you're literally telling me I'm going to go to hell. I'm not a real Christian. I should repent. You're a groomer. You're a pedophile. Like, how do you think anyone's going to stay within your beliefs when you're saying all that? It's insanity. And it's like, it's actually the reverse that needs to happen. We need to start stamping these beliefs out of you. Mm-hmm. Right? The ones who believe that type of harmful crap, we need to stamp it out of you. Because guess what? You, with your narrow point of view, is what's getting people to not follow God. Right? And and don't even pretend like you're all holy and perfect and that you've never done anything wrong. Because so many times it comes from a place of like, well, I repented. I'm good. I'm clean. You're not perfect. You're a human being. You will never be perfect. But then you want to demonize other people, even though you've done all those bad things too. Be real. Be totally real. Like, we got to stamp it out of them. That's what it really is. Because they're not going to change their views anytime soon. And it's like what Dredian said. A lot of what's in this pamphlet, it still exists to today. Some people still believe this. So, we got to keep reading. The committee is reluctant to concede that homosexuality in Florida and America today has reached either the proportions or power suggested by that investigator. It concurs fully, however, that the closet door must be thrown open in the light of public understanding cast upon homosexuality and its relationship to the responsibilities of sound citizenship. We hope that many citizen organizations in Florida will use the report as a jumping-off point for a serious and meaningful consideration of the problem of homosexuality and as a source of information with which to prepare their children to meet the temptations of homosexuality lurking today in the vicinity of nearly every institution of learning. We recommend to the Florida State Board of Education retention at the earliest practicable time of qualified personnel to be assigned to the Teacher Certification Division of the State Department of Education for the purpose of refuting or affirming allegations of homosexuality involving teachers in the public schools of the state and preparing information thus obtained for the prompt consideration and action of the department and board. In the past, the Department of Education has called upon this committee and its predecessors to perform and investigate activities for it, but this is not a proper function of a legislative body and should be placed on a permanent basis within the department as contemplated in the statutes. We recommend and have initiated the formulation of legislation providing a Homosexual Practices Control Act for Florida. We feel such legislation warranted for while we encourage and call for increased research efforts to expose the underlying causes of homosexuality and its possible cures, we recognize that the problem today is one of control, and the established procedures and stern penalties will serve both as an encouragement to law enforcement officials as a deterrent to the homosexual hungry for youth. We have asked the committee of distinguished Floridians to consult with us in the formulation of effective legislation in this field and will invite their consideration of such steps as 1. Mandatory psychiatric examination prior to sentencing of every person convicted of a homosexual act with a minor and discretionary pre-sentence examination of others. 2. Provision for outpatient psychiatric treatment centers to which offenders on probation or parole may be assigned. 3. Providing for the confidentiality of information relating to the first arrest of a homosexual similar to that now in effect in juvenile cases, with the provision that the confidentiality of the information may be waived by the judge upon conviction or a plea of guilty. 4. Creation of central records repository for information on homosexuals arrested and convicted in Florida, and provision that such records shall be open to public employing agencies. 5. Placing sole jurisdiction of a second homosexual offense in a felony court and providing appropriate penalties upon conviction. We believe that a law embodying elements such as these would serve to radically reduce the number of homosexuals preying upon the youth of Florida, and would stifle the state's hand in dealing with those homosexuals apprehended, and provide the element of protection for those homosexuals whose first public venture is relatively mild and whose ability to earn a living or provide for a family would be destroyed by exposure. It behooves us all to come to know the nature of the homosexual, for he is within every area of the state. It behooves us, too, to define for him and for ourselves the conditions which govern his presence. Oh, I want every single person who had a hand in this pamphlet to just burn in the fiery depths of hell. And they probably are, because this is written in the 60s, so most of them are dead. Hey, stomping on your graves.
Well, there's another extra piece of history that comes with this pamphlet. And it's that people did not like this pamphlet. It actually received a ton of backlash because this pamphlet has pictures and a glossary of terms, some of which we cannot show you because we can describe it, but we can't show it to you because it could be illegal. Now, mind you, Purple Pamphlet is available on the internet for free. That's where we're reading it from. You can find it on the internet, but people, even including like other like more conservative people, were mad at the book because it was like pornographic. It was considered obscene pornographic material. And it was even like reclaimed and resold by gay bookstores. It's like, hey, yeah, we're a menace to society. So yeah, the backlash was so bad that the FLIC was actually like, they just couldn't come back from it. They were just destroyed.
Thank God.
And this was published in 1964. The FLIC dissolved in 1965, so, like, not even a year later, like, they crumbled because people fucking hated this book. Gay people were offended, straight people thought it was just, like, porn. It's like, why are you talking about child molestation? Why are you showing all these pictures of gay sex? Like, this is fucked up. So, yeah, they really shot themselves in the foot with this one.
When you look at that last part, and, like, the mentioning of, oh, man, just the continued comparison of homosexual with pedophile. And also, newsflash to everyone, being gay, doing homosexual acts was illegal back then. Like, we forget that, what was it, a sodomy law, I believe? That were in place in several states. If I'm not mistaken, several states had sodomy laws. So, like, for example, if you were seen having oral or anal sex, which usually that's what gay people have, you could be put in jail for many years. There were lots of gay people put in jail. Look at there were so many clips of like people in bathhouses, and like a police would literally what do you call it? They storm a bathhouse and literally arrest a whole bunch of gay people. Raid, that's what it's called, raid. They would raid a bathhouse, and literally a bunch of gay people would be arrested. And you would literally see, with the cameras on them, they would put their hand over their eyes so they could cover their face, because they were so ashamed that they were caught. And it's literally being put on for everyone to see, like, ooh, look, these homosexuals, gay people. And even then, we're gonna talk about some terms and stuff, but like gay wasn't a term that was known, right? Books like this kind of put it into kind of a knowledgeable place, because not books like this, pamphlets like this put it like, oh, this is what gay is, because it was slang. And man, against gay slang across the English language speaking countries, it's all over, man. It's so different. I was looking at, in the UK, they had their own gay slang back then called Polari. And it was something that gay people spoke, like just slang words that gay people know today, like trade and gay and things like that. Like, it's so crazy how gay people, like, around the world kind of formed a language. And we know ballroom culture, which is more popular with black and Latino queer people. And they have their own slang words and stuff. It's like we had to form slang words to kind of get away with blending in with society. Because, like, for example, you can go up to someone and be like, hey, are you gay? Back then, they thought gay just meant happy. So, like, they wouldn't think anything of it. But people who were indeed gay, they knew what it meant. Or they would say something like, "Hey, are you a friend of Dorothy?" That was a way of asking if someone was gay back then. Are you a friend of Dorothy? Which is a reference to Wizard of Oz, reference to Judy Garland. So it's crazy how things were back then. We do have to appreciate that. Look, it is way better than it was back then. We have more people on our side than we did back then. But just because it's better than back then doesn't mean that what's going on today is acceptable. There is still more to fight. There's ignorance to fight. People putting out ignorance. We see damn ignorant DeSantis with his "Don't Say Gay." We see a bunch of anti-trans bills going on. The fight is not over, right? And when you see someone ignorant, I told you before in the bisexual podcast, for anyone who listened to that, I've said, look, give some grace to have people understand, because that is true. Some people really don't know, and you can get them on your side. I'm not saying manipulate them. I'm saying literally correct the ignorance of what they believe by just showing some grace. That doesn't work with everyone, right? That does not work for everyone, and it's not your job to be an explainer for everyone, right? So I'm just putting it out there so that everyone knows. Like, it's not your job to do that. Show grace sometimes, but if someone really is trying you and dehumanizing you, you don't got to sit there and put up with it either. So, just my little 2 cents on that.
All right. So that about wraps up the main portion of the pamphlet, addressing the issue of homosexuality in Florida, the cause of the purpose of the pamphlet, and basically all their opinions. Turns out there's a lot more to talk about. We just realized that we've hit like over 2 hours just like discussing the main part of the pamphlet and our opinions, and there's still all these glossary terms and pictures to go over to. So we've decided what's best for us and for you, the viewer, is we're going to actually split this up into 2 parts, because this is too important to just only do half of it. We got to do all of it, but we also don't want to like give you like a 4-hour show. So if you've been listening up to this point, we really appreciate it. But we're going to actually end the podcast here and cover the rest of the pamphlet in our next episode. So stick around for that.
Yes. So now let's get into our ending information. So this has been the Gamer Agenda podcast. Thanks for listening to us. And here's where you can follow us. Instagram, The Gamer Agenda. Twitter, @GamerAgendaPod. That's Gamer Agenda Pod. Pod spelled P-O-D. We also have a Facebook page, The Gamer Agenda. Give us a like on Facebook and share with your friends. We have an email, thegameragenda@gmail.com. Feel free to contact us with any questions, ideas, or, hey, maybe you want to guest star one day. If for any of that, just email us. Again, thegameragenda@gmail.com. As for... Oh, also, whoa. Just recently, we've been able to host our podcast all over the internet. You can listen to us on Spotify, iTunes/Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you give a like. Amazon Music, and much, much more. Anywhere you get your podcasts, just look for the Gamer Agenda Podcast, and you'll find us. As for me, I am Spider Star You. You can follow subscribe to my YouTube SpiderStarU, Twitter at SpiderStarU. And also I have a PayPal if you want to give me some money, if you feel generous and you want to help a poor little Staryu out, a poor little spider out. It's paypal.me/Michael William Chavez. And, give me $1. Why not?
And if you want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter at Dreadians. That's spelled DREADIANZ. The Z's there because I'm a cool, edgy girl. You can follow me on Instagram at Dreadians. And you can send me some money my way on my coffee, also Dreadians. You can check out my art. My commissions are still open. And you can hear me talk about all sorts of things.
Thank you everyone so much for listening. If you're still listening to at this point, this is a very important podcast. This is an important thing to read about and learn about, and we want to give you the full power of it, So it's actually better that we split it up in 2 parts. So then we'll be refreshed for the next time we record, and you're gonna hear us go off, okay? Mm-hmm. So we'll take this time to rest, and then we'll get to you next time on our next episode. So thank you everyone so much for listening. Bye everyone.
Take it easy. Stay sleazy. See ya.